The bridge of the sovereign Talon hummed with the quiet confidence of absolute power. Admiral Vexthara stood before the massive viewport, her 6 arms clasped behind her elongated torso, watching the blue marble of Earth rotate slowly beneath them. The planet looked so peaceful, so utterly defenseless. Pathetic, she muttered, her mandibles clicking in what passed for amusement among the Zelthak. Look at them, scurrying around their little world like insects. They have no idea what's coming. Commander Krill Nex approached from behind, his heavy footsteps echoing across the metallic floor. The reptilian officer's scales shifted from dark green to a lighter shade, a sign of nervous excitement. Admiral, the fleet is in position. 300 warships, all armed with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. We could glass this planet in minutes. Vexthara's 4 eyes narrowed as she turned to face her subordinate. Minutes? Krill Nex, you disappoint me. The Zelthak Empire didn't conquer half the galaxy by being hasty. These humans, they fascinate me. They're so primitive, yet they've managed to survive longer than most species we've encountered. Barely surviving, if you ask me, Krill Nex replied, his voice dripping with disdain. They still use chemical propulsion for space travel. Their weapons are laughably outdated, and they can't even stop fighting among themselves long enough to present a united front. The Admiral's laugh was like glass breaking. Exactly why this will be so entertaining. I want to see the look on their faces when they realize their precious planet is about to become another jewel in the Emperor's crown. On the communications console, Lieutenant Zaravik's tentacles danced across the holographic interface with practiced ease. Admiral, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the planet's surface. It seems their governments are, how do I put this delicately, panicking. Of course they are, Vexthara said, moving to the communications station. He put their leader on screen. I want to address this United Nations I've been hearing so much about. The main display flickered to life, revealing a large assembly hall filled with beings that looked remarkably similar to each other. 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs. How boring. At the center podium stood a human female with short auburn hair and steel-grey eyes that seemed to hold no fear whatsoever. I am Secretary General Maya Torres of the United Nations, the human said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. I'm assuming you're here to discuss terms? Vexthara couldn't help but admire the human's composure. Most species wet themselves when faced with the Zelthak fleet. Terms? Oh, my dear primitive creature, there are no terms to discuss. I am Admiral Vexthara of the Zelthak Empire, and I'm here to inform you that your species is about to experience the honor of serving us. Torres raised an eyebrow. Serving you? That's an interesting way to put it. What exactly did you have in mind? Simple, the Admiral replied, her mandibles spreading in what might have been a smile. Your species will kneel before the might of the Zelthak Empire. You will provide us with resources, labor, and entertainment. In return, we won't exterminate you immediately. The human assembly hall erupted in nervous chatter, but Torres remained perfectly calm. She actually seemed to be suppressing a smile. Kneel, you say? That's quite a request, Admiral. Tell me, have you ever tried to make a human kneel before? Vexthara's eyes narrowed. Something about the human's tone was unsettling. I have conquered 47 worlds, Secretary General. Every species has eventually seen the wisdom of submission. Your people will be no different. Oh, but we are different, Torres replied, her voice gaining strength. You see, Admiral, humans have a very particular relationship with authority. We don't respond well to demands. In fact, the harder you push, the more we tend to push back. Commander Krill Nex stepped forward, his scales darkening with irritation. Admiral, perhaps we should simply demonstrate our power. A few cities reduced to ash might help them understand their position. But Vexthara held up a hand, her fascination growing. No, Krill Nex. I want to hear what she has to say. Continue, human. Torres leaned forward, her hands gripping the podium. You want us to kneel? Here's a better idea. Why don't you kneel first? Show us how it's done. The bridge fell silent. Even the background hum of the ship's systems seemed to pause. Vex Thara's four eyes widened in disbelief. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Taurus continued, her voice now carrying a hint of steel. "You want submission? Lead by example. Get down on your knees and show us exactly what you're asking for." Lieutenant Zara Vic's tentacles froze over the console. Commander Krill Nex's jaw dropped open, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. The bridge crew exchanged glances of pure shock. Vex Thara's voice rose to a shriek. "You dare mock the Zelthak Empire? You insignificant speck of dust floating through space. I could obliterate your entire planet with a single command." "And yet," Taurus said, her voice maddeningly calm, "you haven't. Which tells me one of two things. Either you're not as powerful as you claim, or you need something from us. Either way, you're not in as strong a position as you'd like us to believe." The Admiral's rage was building to dangerous levels. Her 6 arms began to shake with fury. "You think you understand power, human? Let me show you what happens to those who defy the Zelthak Empire." She spun toward the weapons console. "Target their largest city. Prepare to fire." But Taurus wasn't finished. "Before you do that, Admiral, you might want to take a look at your tactical display. I think you'll find it illuminating." Vex Thara paused, her finger hovering over the firing control. Something in the human's tone made her turn to the tactical officer. "Report." The young Zelthak officer's voice cracked with nervousness. "Admiral, we're detecting anomalous readings. The planet's electromagnetic signature has changed dramatically in the last few minutes." "Changed how?" Vex Thara demanded. "Unknown energy sources are powering up across the surface, hundreds of them. They're unlike anything in our databases." On the main screen, Taurus smiled for the first time. "Did you really think we'd invite you to a conversation without doing a little homework first? While you were busy posturing, we've been preparing." The tactical display suddenly erupted with red warning indicators. Energy readings spiked across the planet's surface as massive structures began rising from hidden locations. Cities that had appeared defenseless moments before now bristled with weapon arrays that seemed to bend space itself. "Impossible," Krillnex breathed. "Our intelligence indicated they were centuries behind us technologically." Taurus chuckled. "Your intelligence was looking at what we wanted you to see. Did you really think a species that survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and nuclear weapons would be unprepared for visitors from space?" The Admiral's composure finally cracked. "You're bluffing. Those readings are fake. No primitive species could develop such technology." "Primitive?" Taurus asked, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "Admiral, we've been listening to your communications for the past 6 months. We know about your other conquests. We know about your tactics, and we know about your weaknesses." The bridge crew was now openly panicking. Alarms began blaring as the ship's sensors detected targeting locks from the planet's surface. Not just a few locks. Thousands of them. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, his voice barely above a whisper, "we're being painted by every weapon system on the planet. They have firing solutions on our entire fleet." Vex Thara's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. "This is impossible. How did they advance so quickly?" Taurus leaned back in her chair, looking entirely too comfortable for someone supposedly at the mercy of an alien invasion fleet. "Who said we advanced quickly? We've been preparing for this day for decades. Ever since we detected your empire's expansion pattern, we've been working on a little surprise." The Secretary-General stood up, her posture radiating confidence. "You see, Admiral, humans have a saying, 'Fool me once, shame on you.' Fool me twice, shame on me. We've been studying your conquests, learning from the mistakes of others. Did you really think we'd just sit here and wait for you to arrive?" "You're still outnumbered," Vex Thara snarled, though her voice lacked its earlier conviction. 300 warships against your single planet." 300 warships, Taurus agreed, positioned exactly where we wanted them. In optimal firing range of our defensive grid. with no room to maneuver in Earth's gravity well. Tell me, Admiral, in all your conquests, have you ever faced an enemy that was actually prepared for you? The answer was clearly no, and everyone on the bridge knew it. The Zelthak Empire's success had been built on surprise attacks against unprepared worlds. They'd never encountered organized resistance. Besides, Torres continued, who said we were alone. Computer, show them the fleet positions. The main display shifted to show the space around Earth. What had appeared to be empty void moments before now revealed itself to be filled with ships. Dozens of them, all running silent until this moment. They were sleek, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Meet the Earth Defense Fleet, Torres announced. Stealth technology is quite useful when you're expecting unwanted guests. Commander Krill Nex's scales had turned completely pale. Admiral, recommend immediate withdrawal. We're walking into a trap. But Vex Thara's pride wouldn't let her retreat. No, we are the Zelthak Empire. We do not run from primitives. She turned back to the screen, her 4 eyes blazing with fury. You think your parlor tricks frighten us, human? We have conquered worlds that thought themselves prepared. Torres nodded sympathetically. I'm sure you have. But tell me, Admiral, have you ever conquered a world that had 40 years to study your tactics? A world that had access to the wreckage of your previous victims' ships? A world that spent decades reverse engineering your technology and improving upon it? The Admiral's confidence was cracking like ice in spring. What are you talking about? The Corvan system, Torres said simply. Ring any bells? Vex Thara's blood ran cold. The Corvan system had been one of their early conquests, 23 years ago. A routine operation that had gone slightly wrong when one of their ships had been damaged and crashed on the planet's surface. You recovered the wreckage, Torres continued, studied it, learned from it, and then you improved upon it. Amazing what you can accomplish when you have a blueprint to work from. The tactical officer's voice was barely a whisper now. Admiral, the energy readings are off the charts. Whatever they're powering up, it's beyond our understanding. Torres smiled again, but this time there was something predatory in her expression. The funny thing about humans, Admiral, is that we're incredibly good at learning from our mistakes. We're even better at learning from other people's mistakes. And we're absolutely exceptional at turning someone's own weapons against them. You're bluffing, Vex Thara repeated, but her voice lacked conviction. Am I? Computer, charge the planetary defense grid to 50%. The space around Earth suddenly lit up like a star being born. Energy discharges danced between the defensive platforms, creating a web of destruction that would make passage through Earth's orbit impossible for any hostile force. 50%? Krill Nex squeaked. What happens at full power? Torres's smile widened. At full power we can crack moons. Would you like a demonstration? The Admiral's pride finally gave way to survival instinct. You're insane. If you attack us, we'll destroy your planet in retaliation. Will you? Torres asked mildly. With what? Our targeting computers are already locked onto every ship in your fleet. One wrong move, and you'll all be expanding clouds of superheated plasma. But please, by all means, try to attack us. I'm curious to see how your shields hold up against modified Zelthak weaponry. The bridge fell silent again, except for the increasingly frantic beeping of alarm systems. Vex Thara looked around at her crew, seeing fear in every face. The predator had become the prey, and they all knew it. What do you want? The Admiral asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Torres leaned forward, her steel-grey eyes meeting all 4 of Vex Thara's. I want you to kneel. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in outrage. Never. Bah. Then I suppose we're at an impasse, Torres said, settling back in her chair. You won't kneel, and we won't submit. The question is, what happens next? The Secretary-General gestured to someone off-screen, and moments later the display split to show military commanders from around the world. Each one wore the grim expression of someone prepared for war. Admiral, Torres continued, meet the Joint Chiefs of the Earth Defense Force. They've been preparing for this day for decades. Every scenario, every contingency, every possible outcome has been planned for, including the one where stubborn alien invaders refuse to see reason. General Harrison stepped forward, his weathered face serious. Admiral Vex Thara, you have exactly 1 minute to begin withdrawing your forces from Earth orbit. Any ship that remains after that deadline will be considered a hostile target and destroyed. You can't be serious, Vex Thara protested. We have quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, shields that can withstand star-level temperatures. Torres corrected. Past tense. You had all those advantages. Right up until you decided to position your entire fleet in the middle of our kill zone. The countdown timer appeared on the screen, 59, 58, 57. This is madness, Krillnex whispered. Admiral, we have to retreat. We can't fight them here. But Vex Thara's pride was her greatest weakness. The Zelthak Empire does not retreat. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. We will not be defeated by a species that hasn't even left its own solar system. Torres raised an eyebrow. Who said we haven't left our solar system? Computer, show them the outer colonies. The display shifted again, this time showing the asteroid belt, Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Each location was bustling with activity, massive installations that were clearly not natural formations. We've been busy, Torres explained. 40 years of preparation tends to keep one occupied. Mining operations, manufacturing facilities, research stations. All of it designed for one purpose, defending our home. 30, 29, 28. The Admiral's composure was completely shattered now. This is impossible. Our scouts reported no significant space activity. Your scouts saw exactly what we wanted them to see, Torres replied. It's amazing what you can accomplish with holographic projectors and sensor jammers. We've been watching you for months, Admiral. Learning your patterns, studying your weaknesses. Did you really think we'd let you just waltz in here and take over? 15, 14, 13. Admiral, the tactical officer reported, his voice cracking with terror. I'm detecting massive energy buildups in the asteroid belt. They have weapons platforms hidden throughout the system. Torres nodded approvingly. Very good. Most species don't notice those until it's too late. Give the tactical officer a promotion, Admiral. He's got good eyes. 05, 04, 03. Wait. Vex Thara screamed. We'll withdraw. We'll leave. Torres held up a hand, and the countdown stopped at 01. Now that's more like it, she said pleasantly. But first I believe you had something to show us. Something about kneeling. The Admiral's 6 arms shook with rage and humiliation. Around the bridge, her crew watched in stunned silence as their supposedly invincible commander faced a choice between pride and survival. You can't be serious, Vex Thara whispered. Dead serious, Torres replied. You wanted submission, Admiral. You wanted to see an entire species kneel before your might. Well, here's your chance to demonstrate exactly what that looks like. The Secretary-General's voice carried across the bridge with the weight of absolute authority. Kneel, Admiral. Show us how it's done. As the seconds ticked by, one truth became crystal clear to everyone watching. The galaxy's greatest predators had just become prey, and their hunter was a species they'd underestimated completely. The question now was whether pride would triumph over survival, or if the mighty Zelthak Empire was about to learn a very hard lesson about the dangers of underestimating humanity. The bridge of the Sovereign Talon had become a tomb of silence. Admiral Vex Thara's 6 arms trembled as she stared at the human on the screen, her 4 eyes darting between Torres and the countdown timer frozen at 01. The weight of her empire's reputation pressed down on her like a collapsing star. You're asking me to humiliate myself in front of my entire crew, Vex Thara said, her voice barely containing her rage. To disgrace the Zelthak Empire before the galaxy. Torres tilted her head, her expression almost sympathetic. Admiral, you misunderstand. I'm not asking you to humiliate yourself. I'm asking you to demonstrate the behavior you expect from others. Leadership by example, as we humans call it. Commander Krill next stepped closer to his superior, his scales now a sickly yellow color. Admiral, perhaps we should consider a strategic withdrawal. Regroup with the main fleet and... Silence. Vex Thara roared, her mandibles snapping shut with a sound like breaking bone. The Zelthak Empire does not retreat. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. We have conquered civilizations that span star systems. Past tense again, Torres observed calmly. You were the apex predators, right up until you encountered a species that refuses to be prey. On the tactical display, the energy readings from Earth's defensive grid continued to climb. The planet's surface had transformed into a maze of weapon emplacements, each one capable of reducing a Zelthak warship to scrap metal. The supposedly primitive world now looked like the most fortified position in known space. Lieutenant Zaravik's tentacles danced nervously over her console. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 ships in the fleet. Their commanders are concerned about the current situation. The Admiral's laugh was harsh and bitter. Concerned? They should be terrified. As should these humans. Do they not understand what they're dealing with? Oh, we understand perfectly, Torres replied. We're dealing with a species that's grown comfortable with easy victories. A species that's forgotten what it means to face real resistance. She gestured to someone off-screen, and the display shifted to show archived footage of previous Zelthak conquests, world after world falling to their superior technology and ruthless tactics. Civilizations that had never seen such advanced weapons, never faced such coordinated brutality. Impressive record, Torres admitted. 47 worlds conquered in less than a century. But tell me, Admiral, how many of those worlds had advance warning of your arrival? How many had decades to prepare? Vex Thara's mandibles clicked rapidly. Preparation means nothing against overwhelming force. Does it? Torres asked. Computer, show them the Thermopylae protocol. The display changed again, this time showing a strategic map of the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of hidden weapon platforms, concealed bases and camouflaged defense stations. The entire system was a fortress, with Earth at its protected heart. The Thermopylae protocol, Torres explained, named after an ancient human battle where 300 warriors held off an army of thousands. Sometimes, Admiral, preparation and determination can overcome even the greatest odds. General Harrison appeared on the split screen again, his expression grim. Admiral Vex Thara, our deep space sensors are detecting additional Zelthak fleet movements. It appears you've called for reinforcements. The Admiral's eyes widened. Their long-range communications had been encrypted, coded through quantum channels that should have been impossible for the humans to detect, let alone decode. Surprised? Torres asked, noticing the alien's reaction. We've been monitoring your communications for months. Every order, every tactical discussion, every weakness in your command structure. We know about the Second Fleet approaching from the Rigel sector. We know about the Third Fleet holding position near Alpha Centauri. We even know about the special weapons you're carrying. Commander Krill Nex's jaw dropped open. How could they possibly? Because they're not as primitive as we thought, Vex Thara said quietly, the reality of their situation finally sinking in. They've been playing us from the beginning. Torres nodded approvingly, finally some recognition. You see, Admiral, humans have a particular talent for learning from history. We've studied every successful resistance movement, every tactical victory against superior forces. And we've applied those lessons on a planetary scale. The countdown timer suddenly resumed 01, but instead of weapons firing, the display showed something far more terrifying. The space around Earth erupted with activity as thousands of previously invisible ships decloaked simultaneously. Not just human vessels, but ships from dozens of different species, all bearing the distinctive markings of the Galactic Liberation Front. Meet our allies, Tories announced. Survivors from the worlds you've conquered. Species you thought you'd broken. They've been waiting for this moment for decades. On the main display, alien faces appeared one by one. A Corvan commander whose homeworld had been the first to fall. A Thessian admiral whose people had been enslaved for mining operations. A Volcari general whose civilization had been reduced to scattered refugees. You remember us, don't you, Admiral? The Corvan commander said, his voice filled with quiet fury. You remember what you did to our worlds, our people, our children. Vex Thara's composure cracked completely. But this is impossible. You were defeated. Scattered, broken. Scattered, yes, the Thessian admiral replied. But not broken. Never broken. We've been waiting, planning, preparing. And when the humans reached out to us, when they showed us their preparations, we knew the time for revenge had come. The tactical display now showed the true scope of the trap. The Zelthak fleet wasn't just outnumbered, they were completely surrounded. Thousands of ships from dozens of species, all armed with weapons specifically designed to counter Zelthak technology. You wanted to see kneeling, Admiral, Taurus said, her voice carrying the weight of an entire galaxy's anger. Look around you. Your empire is about to kneel before the combined might of every species you've wronged. The bridge crew was openly panicking now. Alarm systems screamed warnings as targeting solutions locked onto every Zelthak ship, but the supposedly invincible fleet was trapped in a web of retribution 40 years in the making. This is madness, Krillnex whispered. We have to surrender. We have to. No. Vex Thara screamed, her 6 arms flailing wildly. I am Admiral Vex Thara of the Zelthak Empire. I do not kneel to inferior species. I do not bow to primitives. Taurus sighed deeply. Admiral, you have exactly 10 seconds to reconsider. After that, this conversation becomes academic. You're bluffing, Vex Thara snarled. You won't risk starting a galactic war. War? Taurus asked, genuinely surprised. Admiral, the war started 40 years ago when you began your conquest. This isn't the beginning of a conflict. This is the end of one. The Secretary-General stood up, her steel-grey eyes boring into the Admiral's fore. You have 5 seconds to kneel, Admiral. 5 seconds to show the galaxy that even the mighty Zelthak Empire can learn humility. 4 seconds. I will not. 3 seconds. You cannot make me. 2 seconds. The Empire will never. 1 second. Wait. Commander Krillnex suddenly shoved his superior aside, dropping to his knees on the bridge floor. We surrender. We yield. Please don't destroy us. The countdown stopped again. Around the bridge, other crew members began following their commander's example, dropping to their knees one by one. The proud warriors of the Zelthak Empire, brought low by their own arrogance. But Admiral Vex Thara remained standing, her 6 arms shaking with rage and humiliation. Get up, you cowards. Get up and fight. With what? Krillnex asked, his voice broken. Our weapons are useless against their shields. Our ships are outnumbered 100 to 1. Our empire is finished, Admiral. Can't you see that? Taurus watched the scene with something approaching pity. Admiral, your crew has made the wise choice. They're choosing survival over pride. Perhaps you should consider doing the same. Never, Vex Thara whispered. I am the sword of the Empire. I am the terror that stalks the stars. I do not kneel. Then you will fall, Taurus said simply. Computer, target the flagship. Prepare to fire. The energy readings around Earth spiked to maximum levels. The defensive grid charged to full power, creating a light show that could be seen from orbit. Every weapon in the system locked onto the Sovereign Talon, waiting for the final command. Admiral, Lieutenant Zarovic said quietly, the rest of the fleet is requesting permission to surrender. They're abandoning formation. Vex Thara watched in horror as her supposedly loyal fleet began powering down weapons and transmitting surrender codes. Ship after ship gave up the fight, their crews choosing life over the Admiral's pride. "Cowards," she breathed. "All of them cowards." "No," Torres corrected. "They're realists. They understand that sometimes survival requires swallowing your pride." The Admiral looked around the bridge at her kneeling crew, then at the tactical display showing thousands of enemy ships, then finally at the human woman who had orchestrated her downfall. "You've won," she said finally, "but you haven't broken us. The Zelthak Empire will remember this day." Torres nodded slowly. "I'm sure it will. But Admiral, the question remains, will you kneel, or will you force us to destroy you?" For a long moment the bridge was silent except for the hum of ship systems and the quiet sobbing of terrified crew members. Vex Thara's 4 eyes darted between the display and her subordinates, seeing the truth written in every face. Slowly, painfully, her legs began to bend. "No," she screamed, fighting against her own survival instincts. "I will not be humiliated. I will not." But her knees touched the deck anyway, her body betraying her pride in favor of life. The Admiral of the Zelthak Empire, conqueror of worlds, terror of the galaxy, knelt before a human woman on a backwater planet. The bridge fell silent. Even the alarm systems seemed to pause in respect for the moment. Torres's voice was gentle when she spoke again. "Thank you, Admiral." "That took courage. Courage." Vex Thara's voice was barely a whisper. "I have disgraced my entire species." "No," Torres replied. "You've saved them. Your surrender will prevent a war that would have consumed the galaxy. Your humility today will save billions of lives tomorrow." The Admiral looked up, confusion replacing rage in her 4 eyes. You're not going to execute us." Torres actually laughed. "Execute you? Admiral, we're not conquerors, we're defenders. We don't want to rule the galaxy, we just want to protect it from those who do." She gestured to the alien commanders on the split screen. "Your former victims aren't here for revenge, Admiral. They're here for justice, and justice doesn't require your death. It requires your acknowledgement of what you've done." The Korvan commander stepped forward. "Admiral Vex Thara, you will stand trial for war crimes against 47 civilizations. You will answer for every world burned, every species enslaved, every life lost to your empire's ambition." But the Thessian admiral added, "You will be given a fair trial. You will be allowed to defend your actions. And if you show genuine remorse, if you help us rebuild what you've destroyed, you might even earn redemption." Vex Thara's mandibles clicked slowly as she processed this information. "You're offering me a chance to atone." Torres nodded. "We're offering you a choice, Admiral. You can spend the rest of your life in prison, bitter and unrepentant. Or you can help us build a better galaxy, one where conquest is replaced by cooperation." The Admiral looked around at her crew, still kneeling on the bridge floor. "And my people?" "Will be given the same choice," Torres replied. "Those who choose peace will be welcomed. Those who choose war will be contained. It's that simple." For the first time since the conversation began, Vex Thara's voice carried a note of hope. "And the Empire? What happens to the Zelthak Empire?" Torres smiled. "The Empire of Conquest dies today, Admiral. But the Zelthak people, they can build something better. That's something worthy of their talents." The Admiral's 6 arms slowly stopped shaking. Around the bridge, her crew looked up with wonder in their eyes. They had expected death, expected humiliation, expected the complete destruction of everything they'd known. Instead, they were being offered hope. I accept," Vex Thara said quietly. "I accept your terms." Torres nodded approvingly. "Excellent. Computer, stand down the defensive grid. All ships, return to normal alert status." The energy readings around Earth began to decrease as the planet's weapons powered down. The immediate crisis was over, but the real work was just beginning. "Admiral," Torres continued, "you'll be transferred to a neutral facility for processing. Your crew will be given the option to return home or remain as observers during the transition process." "Transition process?" Vexthara asked. The formation of the Galactic Council, Torres explained. A governing body representing all species, dedicated to peaceful cooperation and mutual defense. The age of conquest is over, Admiral. The age of collaboration begins now. As the Admiral was led away by her own security team, now serving as escorts rather than guards, she paused at the bridge entrance. Secretary General, she called out, "May I ask you something?" Torres nodded. "Of course. How did you know?" Vexthara asked. "How did you know that I would eventually kneel?" Torres smiled sadly. "Because, Admiral, everyone kneels eventually. The only question is whether you kneel to pride or to wisdom. Whether you kneel to preserve your ego or to save your people." The Admiral's mandibles clicked one final time in what might have been understanding. "And which did I choose?" "That," Torres replied, "is something only you can answer." As the blast doors closed behind the former conqueror, the bridge crew of the Sovereign Talon began the long process of standing up. Not just physically, but morally. The Zelthak Empire had fallen, but the Zelthak people had been given a chance to rise. On Earth, Secretary General Maya Torres looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy was far from perfect, but today it was a little bit safer, a little bit more hopeful. And sometimes that was enough. The age of human defiance had ended not with destruction, but with the promise of something better. The aliens had come seeking submission, but they had found something far more valuable, the possibility of redemption. In the end, everyone had learned to kneel. But they had knelt to hope, not to fear, and that perhaps made all the difference.